So excuse me if the microphone, I get really passionate sometimes, so my voice will get up to here, and I'll forget that we're in a smaller place. First off, I want to thank you all for being here today. I thank you for the opportunity, Jerry, for bringing me out. It's an extraordinary opportunity to speak with you all and just share my story and a lot of the work that I do, and just awareness, most importantly. So today I'm going to actually show some things, and talk about some things that can be a little bit explicit. We're all adults in here, but if we're not, feel free to step out. There will be some explicit language, and there's no other way that I can share my story. There's no other way that I can give you awareness without being real. I can't be raw and give you that, because it's the reality. This is what the children that I work with and my story and what they go through each and every day. I kind of want to get a couple questions out. How many of you guys know or have heard about child sex trafficking? Okay, cool. How many of you guys know that it happens here in the United States? How many of you guys know that it is the fastest, largest, most growing crime right now in America? Does anybody know that it has now surpassed weapons, and it falls after drugs, and in about 3 years, it will move to number 1. So the video I am going to show you guys, the best way that I can explain it, this is a day in the life. So.
You're coming a little strong, though. I think you can chill out a little bit.
No.
Oh, well, I'm not going to talk to you then.
You can get the fuck out, bitch.
Bitch, huh?
Yeah.
I guess.
You guess. Bitch, I will beat the fuck out of you. I will beat your ass. Like, swear to God, I will beat the fuck out of you. Like, on everything, no. Bitch, I'm not from out here.
Watch out.
I'm not from out here, bitch.
I said watch out. I said watch out.
Bitch, I will beat the fuck out of you, bitch. I'm not from out here, bitch.
I said watch out.
I'm not bitch. Oh.
Watch out. Sit down.
That's fine.
Sit down.
That's fine, sweetie.
Gotta get your ass off.
You could have went toe-to-toe, baby, though.
No, I did, bitch. I walked up to you. We could do another round. Get the fuck out, bitch. You about to some pimping. Don't want to play? Bitch, you disrespected my hoe enough. You disrespected my hoe. You disrespected my nigga. You want to lay up under him all night and not get no money, bitch? You just want to be around this motherfucker and sit up like you some pretty ass bitch?
No,
bitch, get the fuck up out of here. Bitch,
not
post
the
that ad or get the fuck out.
I did post the ad.
When? Yesterday? Yesterday?
Listen. I'm ready to go.
Bye.
So.
You found your way here? He's not taking you. Bitch, go. Daddy, you taking her?
Don't ask me no motherfucking stupid ass question, bitch. You talk to her. You don't talk to me.
Okay.
Answer the phone. I told you to chill. Now you're getting us kicked out of our room, right?
Hello.
That's just a quick glimpse of what happens on a day-to-day basis when kids are being trafficked. I want to talk about me. How many of you guys know the average age of entry of child sex trafficking? Anybody? The average age of entry when a child will enter their life is at 12 years old. How many of you guys have children in this room? Any of you have daughters? I have one myself, my little 1-month-old, so sorry about the little giggles earlier. The best way that I can describe my story in a very short time frame is I want you to think about your normal. Think about your everyday life, what you do, the routine with your children, the traditions with your children, what you're going to do after you leave, these presentations, and just think about your normal and process that. And then I'm going to go over my normal with you. My normal at 11 years old was being raped 10 to 15 times a night. My normal at 11 years old was being whacked upside my head with any object that he can pick up and beat me with it. My normal was beaten every time that I didn't meet the quota that he was telling me to make. My normal every single night was not being tucked into bed by mommy and daddy. My normal was not being read bedtime stories and talking about college or what was I going to wear to prom. My normal every single day was waking up, making money for a man, handing over, and being beaten, and being assaulted, and being raped. That was my normal from 11 to 15 years old. There was no hope. There was no talking about dreams or talking about college anymore. There was no hope of one day even getting out of this life. Every single day, the only motive and the only thing that I had to ever do was make money, waking up and wondering how even I was going to survive the next day. Now, the work that I do now and the kids that I work with, that is their normal. Tonight, when we all go home, and even as I drive home back to Orange County, when I lay my head on my pillow with my beautiful daughter at 8 p.m., guess what? Girls are starting to be getting ready to live that normal lifestyle. That was my life from 11 to 15. These photos up here is just a quick glimpse of what I looked like at 11, the best thing I can show you. This is 11-year-old, 12 years old. I was 15 years old working the internet on a webcam. I didn't grow up in the best of kind of family. I had a lot of dysfunction in my life, but I will tell you this, the girls that I work with today, they all don't come from low-income families. They all don't come from dysfunctional families. The victims and the girls that are targeted are young girls. And in today's society, with the internet and with all kind of ads and commercials and the media, it makes our children targets. He didn't have to come looking for me, and we'll go over a little bit of some of the predators and the traffickers and what they do. But I fell right on his doorstep. I was a young girl, wondering who I was, trying to fit in society, trying to figure it all out. I had been sexually abused already by the age of 8. I had been molested at 9. I had been gang raped by 10 years old. I had already been through, by the time I was 17 years old, I had been through 17 different foster homes and group homes. That was my life. I was the perfect target. And I'll be honest and be kind of raw. In today's society, I will be completely honest. I think I was very afraid of having my daughter. Being afraid of the society and what she'll be raised in. Right in our backyards. A lot of people think that, except for this group, a lot of people think that child sex trafficking happens overseas, which is right. It does happen in Thailand and Mexico, but everything that I'm going to talk to you about today is only true stories that has happened here in the United States, right here in California, right here in our backyards. As many of you guys know, I don't know is everyone in here from San Diego? No? Can you guys tell me a couple places where you guys are from? So Missouri, New York?
Chicago.
LA? Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so from all over. But this actually is the boulevard. This is El Cajon Boulevard. And at 15 years old, I worked multiple of tracks, which are places where kids are trafficked. It's happening right here. I can't tell you how many times I have traveled across the nation and being sold, whether that was being transported in the trunk of a car or in the back seat and having eaten for 3 days. That is the reality. Our kids are being sold right here. It's not in the massage parlors. It's not where the flashing lights and says it's open in the middle of the night. That happens too. But our kids are being trafficked right here in motels, and not just in the raggedy ones. They're being sold right in the upscale ones, whether it's the Marriott, whether it's the Embassy Suites. They are being sold right here. And the scary part about it is that it's happening in plain sight. Do anybody know that right now you can purchase a child or a woman over the internet? If we wanted to, we can have them right here at our doorstep in a blink of an eye. It's like an order. It's literally like ordering a pizza. You can get the size. You can get the waistline. You can get the height. You can get the bust line. You can get the age, what race you want. You can even get what religion you want. You can order a child in the blink of an eye. And that's because of the internet and different multiple websites, dating websites of what they work off of. The one thing I do want to talk about is this. It is $1 billion industry. $1 billion. As you can see, is this formula this is just with one girl, actually a survivor sister of mine, and she sat down with a mentor, and they did this. They wanted to talk about the truth. And let's just use per year $208,000. $200,000. In 1 year, she was raped 4,160 times. That's in 1 year. So that doesn't multiply probably the times out of the 4 years that I had been raped and assaulted. See, a lot of people have this misconception of children are choosing to be out there. I can't tell you how many times if people have asked me, well, why didn't you just leave? That is the number one question. And I'll tell you why. Because at 11 years old, when I walked into McDonald's with hardly anything on, people like of us all that's sitting in this room, everybody that went about their day looked at me with disgust. They turned their heads, stuck their noses up at me because we felt like it wasn't their problem. This is not my child, it's not my problem. So many people turned their heads to me. I want to kind of discuss a little bit. This is just some resources, you guys. Some of the traffickers really quickly. It's so hard to do this in 18 minutes. Believe me, when you have an 8-hour training, when I train police, and it turns into a 3-day training. But I want to go over the traffickers. So there are 6 different type of traffickers what happen when they sex traffic children. The first trafficker we'll talk about, since we're kind of, this is the function of it, are the CEO pimp. The CEO pimp is the man of opportunity. It's the businessman, the taxpaying man that wants to maybe make a couple of extra dollars. And what he would do to lure in a kid is present an opportunity to a child. And whether that's through the modeling agency, whether it's he has his own business over here, and he will meet a girl and say, hey, I got this opportunity for you. You can go work wherever, whether it's a job opportunity, whether it's for modeling or, like I said, for acting. And what ends up happening is that they'll get forms, basically signed documents, get all of the legal documents, and hold that against the child. Sometimes sexual acts may take place or not. It just depends. The second trafficker, what we'll talk about, is one of my first traffickers was the Romeo pimp. A lot of times they meet that is our common pimp. They will meet a child and basically have this relationship with them. The hardest part of my job is trying to tell a 12-year-old kid who's a reflection of me is that this 35-year-old man does not love him. It is the hardest bond that I have ever had to try to break. And he wines and dines them with gifts. He travels. He takes them nice places, put them in expensive hotels, and tells them that he loves them. And guess what? At the perfect time, at the right time in that child's life, it works. Because whether if mommy and daddy works too much and is being watched by a nanny, or if mom and dad don't spend enough time, or whether if this child comes from a dysfunctional family, he's the knight in shining armor. The third pimp are the traffickers, are the family. A lot of the kids that I work with are in the foster care system. And they come from a family whether if the mother and father is using drugs, they will sell them for drugs. Or sometimes it looks as if a child is trying to now provide for the family. I have a survivor sister who's been trafficked since she was 8 years old. And it was kind of like an obligation of what she had to do for the family. The next trafficker is the female. It's called a madam, a woman who may have been trafficked previously in her time and now feels like, hey, I'm going to traffic kids as well. And sometimes that relationship looks like a love relationship, but a lot of times it looks like a mother and daughter relationship. That child that's yearning for that motherly love. Gangs are getting very involved with this because instead of selling drugs and having to buy the product, sell the product, repurchase the product, I can sell a human being over and over and over again. And that's their logic. Another trafficker, which is the most violent one, who branded me at 12 years old with my tattoo on my neck, is called the gorilla pimp. He is the one you see in the movies. He is the one that you see that snatches up these kids in the movies and takes them in the van. That is real. That is the man that will snatch that kid up, that is walking home from school with her headphones in, tweeting, texting, and Snapchatting at the same time, and he will snatch her, get her violently raped and beaten, and that will be her life. That's very briefly of what I can kind of explain to you of what that looks like. I think the most important thing today of what I can share is that my story is not only full of resilience, but of hope. Another common question is people wonder, how did I get out? I kind of always do this, but the man who actually saved my life is sitting in the back seat back there with that the yellow shirt back there. Say hi, Jim. Say hi. And, I just came here to share with you guys this awareness because I know that it may feel like, well, what can we do? We don't really have no place or anything like that. And there was no specific purpose of why Jim was in my life, but he changed my life. He saved my life because he could do something. For the first time in my life, someone gave me hope. For the first time in my life, somebody was willing to fight for me because I couldn't fight for myself. For the first time in my life, somebody was willing to be the voice that I didn't have at the time. And that was at 15 years old. And I share that with you all today because you can do something. It doesn't have to be direct contact. It can be basically partnering with a nonprofit, helping them out, whatever, whether it's financial, whether it's with volunteers if you have, whether it's with different organizations that you can contact with and give them the resources. But you all can do something individually. And whatever your heart is yearning and telling you to do, then you should do it. Because there was no specific guideline or anything that I needed. What I needed was hope. What I needed was someone to believe in me because I couldn't believe in myself. And believe me, if I could kind of show you guys a video of how I was at 15 years old, I was probably like the Tasmanian devil 10 times, 100 times worse than that. But I was a kid. I was broken. I was alone. I was hurt. I was abandoned. And I can't tell you guys that feeling of being 11 and 12 years old and walking in a McDonald's and walking in that donut shop and being invisible, wishing that somebody would have asked me, was I okay? I can't tell you the feeling of when I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and respond to a crisis call for my job and have to go pick up an 11-year-old girl who had just been beaten, who had been raped. I can't tell you the feeling that she's having. And the only way that I can explain to you of my job only there at that moment is to bring her hope and to give her comfort. That is my only job. So I want to thank you guys. These are some resources. Feel free. I know you guys are getting ready to go on break. If you want to step out and ask me, believe me, I'm an open book. You can ask me anything. I do trainings with teenagers. They have the craziest questions, and you'll be very surprised. Cops have the most interesting questions. So thank you guys.